welcome back. Tonight we're going to be making a meatloaf actually. I wanted something that was pretty light on the work end for me this week, and this should be it, and also a nice change of pace from something that you have to eat with a spoon. The first thing you want to do is to get your oven turned on to 375. We want to let that get hot so it's ready when the loaf is ready to go in. We're going to start out with some breadcrumbs. I've used the dried breadcrumbs that you can get in the store before. I really don't care for them. It just makes the texture of the meatloaf a little too dry for my taste. So I actually like to use just regular old sandwich bread and the chopping attachment for my hand mixer and make the breadcrumbs that way. If you don't have one of these, you can just chop the bread up in about half-inch pieces and that'll be fine. Alright, I've got my 4 pieces of bread shredded up into crumbs, and now I'm going to add seasonings to this. A couple of tablespoons of parsley flakes, maybe half a teaspoon of garlic salt, celery salt, onion salt, a tablespoon or so of black pepper, and about a half teaspoon of ground mustard. If you've got it, throw in a sprinkle or so of allspice. I like to give the dry ingredients a good mix, just to make sure they're pretty well incorporated. I've got 3 pounds of ground beef. And that goes right in the bowl as well. I've also got 3 cloves of garlic. This time I am actually going to put it through the garlic press. To help bind things together, I'm going to put a couple of eggs in here. I know a lot of people like to put ketchup on top of the meatloaf before they stick it in the oven. I personally don't care for the flavor of the cooked ketchup that way. However, it does add some nice flavor to the meat itself. So I'm actually going to mix in about a quarter of a cup, third of a cup of ketchup. Mix this up until it's all really well combined. And finally, I've got about a 1/3 pound of cheese. I'm using a sharp cheddar because I like it. Use whatever you like. If you don't do dairy, leave it out. And I'm just cutting it up into about 1/4 to half-inch size pieces and throwing that in the bowl. I don't do this before mixing everything up, just because I don't want the cheese to break down too much. Because what this will do is form little pockets of melty cheese inside the meatloaf, which, meat, cheese, I'm a guy. I like it. And then we want to just get the cheese mixed in. You don't want to mix it too hard and break up the cheese too much, but you do want it to be distributed throughout the meat. Then what you want to do is just kind of form it into a log. And actually, it's kind of hard to do in the bowl. You don't want the ends to be too thin. You want it to be pretty uniform all the way across. What I've got here is a about 8 by 12 inch baking dish. And I've got a couple of cookie cooling racks that I stick in here. What these do is they're going to keep the meatloaf up out of the bottom of the pan and keep it from stewing in its own fat. If you don't have those cookie racks, it'll work just fine without them. I made it that way for quite a while before I ended up getting some cookie racks. And now this is what you're going to want it to look like. I'm trying something new with this meatloaf tonight that I haven't done before, but I've seen it done by other people. I have that bacon left over from the stew I made last time. I'm going to take that and put it over the meatloaf. And now this is what it looks like when it's ready to go into the oven. Put it in the oven on the top rack, and I'll be back in about 45 minutes to check on it. It's been about 45 minutes. We're going to check on the meatloaf, see if it's done. So all we really need to do is just cut into it, look down inside, see if it's still red inside. It's still red. It's quite red. Not even close to done yet. Back in the oven it goes. I'll check it in another half hour or so. It's been about another half hour. Check the meatloaf again. I think you've used another 15 minutes or so. If your budget allows, it might be nice to have some mashed potatoes. I've actually got some instant mashed potatoes because they're quick and easy. Just follow the directions for how many servings you want on the container. I like to substitute something like garlic salt for the salt that is called for on the container, just because it adds another level of flavor. The meatloaf should be done now. I'm going to go ahead and let that just settle for a little bit while I finish the mashed potatoes. This is what the cooked meatloaf will look like. The meatloaf's had a chance to cool for a bit. I'm going to go ahead and transfer it onto a plate. I take a little work because the meat will have wrapped around the bars of the cooling racks a little bit, but just rock it back and forth a little bit to loosen it up, and then you'll be able to get it onto a plate. What I do with the fat here, I let it cool until it's solid, then I can just take like a spatula and scrape it out of there and throw it in the trash. And there you have it. If you like, have some ketchup with it, or just have it the way it is. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.